Hello everyone, I welcome you to another episode of Reviewed by Joe for you. Well, thank you so much for tuning in. Please take a few moments, hit that subscribe button. I truly would appreciate it. Thank you so much. Well, today guys, what we'll be doing is an unboxing and complete assembly of a sandbox. An octagon shaped wooden cedar sandbox with seat boards to be exact. The sandbox had pretty good reviews on Amazon. Got it for about $100 or so. So hopefully everything works out. The biggest complaints I heard about the sandbox from some of the reviews I looked at was receiving damaged product. But other than that, it was got pretty good reviews. Seemed to be a pretty straightforward product. And from what I understand, pretty much like a puzzle to put together. So let's go ahead and get her open and see if that rings true. Now I can tell you from taking a look at the box and just that external overview, everything seems to be looking pretty good. Don't see a whole lot of damage on the box. The edges aren't banged in, which is typically a telltale sign that the box was mishandled, if you were. So good news there. So we'll go ahead and get into this box and see exactly what the product looks like. Let's go ahead and put that knife away. Safety first, as always. Let's go ahead and see what we got here. Voila. Alright. First of all, you smell that cedar. So that's good news. I chose this sandbox in addition to some of the good reviews. The fact that it is made out of 100% wood, cedar wood, which from what I understand is somewhat of a natural insect repellent. Here's some of the hardware here. Some screws. As you can see here, here's the instruction board. Some of the packing there. Like I said, it seems to be pretty nice. We'll get a better look at her in a bit here, but so far everything looks good. Instructions, hardware. Let's just look back at it, looking at everything here. All the edges of the wood from just looking at the box seem to be in pretty good shape, so hopefully that's the case. Now, what you see here is what they call like an underlayment of sorts. It's pretty much the ground liner that you'll put on the bottom of this sandbox, but we'll get to that in a second here. Let me just take a look at these instructions. See what we got here. Scoo-doo-doo-doo, scoo-doo-doo-doo, scoo-doo-doo-doo. All right, pretty simple, pretty straightforward. All right, let's go ahead and get to it and make this thing come together. All right, so what we have here pretty much is the cover. This green plastic material here, I guess is a vinyl, but it's going to be the cover. And here's that underlayment or ground liner that we spoke about earlier. So yeah, let's take a look at some of the wood. Now let me tell you, the wood it's supposed to be about 3/4 of an inch thick, which seems to be being pretty true, and it's pretty light wood, but it definitely appears to be solid cedar wood with a light stain of sorts on it. From what I understand, doing some of my research, the stain they use is supposed to be a natural, a water-based stain, should I say, a water-based stain. So let's hope that's the case, and you know, it holds up. So as you can see here, we pretty much got the octagon started here. Let me just go ahead and pan over and get you a quick look at it. But as you can see there, you pretty much just put it together like a puzzle. The instructions are pretty straightforward. I got that ground liner there, it's just sitting in the middle, and we'll get to how we're gonna incorporate that as this build progresses. But yeah, that's pretty much how it is. It's pretty much almost like a big wooden Lego set from back in the day. I forgot what they used to call them, Lego logs, I think they used to call them. Yeah, it kind of reminds you of that. You know, it's pretty good design. So far, the good news is so far, all the wood seems to be undamaged, and as you can see here, another good thing about it, it doesn't allow you to put the wood in the wrong way. You see, it only goes in one way. So as you see here, I would need to flip that wood over, and once I do that, voila, no problem, it slides in. And like I said, thank goodness, so far so good. None of the wood seems to be damaged, because from what I understand from some of the reviews, a very small percentage, but some did complain about some of these grooves in the wood being damaged or chipped. So far so good. And speaking of damage, I was growing some tomatoes, and these dang insects totally destroyed them. Now, I must admit, I did get some. I was able to salvage a few that worked out pretty good, but lesson learned. Next time I'll use some type of organic repellent, but I digress. So, back to the sandbox. Yeah, so far the wood's still looking good. I appear not to have any damaged pieces. And the good thing about this setup is once you start to put this octagon together, this sandbox together, which is pretty much just a wooden octagon, like I said earlier, like almost like a Lego. It's just, you just continue to build on that. So it's pretty simple, pretty straightforward. And there you go, just taking a look at how some of the wood's going to look. You pretty much have, if you look at the top and size of this octagon, as it were, you'll see the larger pieces of wood, and then some of the smaller pieces kind of make up the other sides. But yeah, it seems to be really stable, and it seems to also, you know, be a really good design. So, like I said, the reviews were pretty good, and we'll go ahead and continue to put it together, and hopefully, you know, we continue to have the success we've had so far. It's been seamless. All right, so let's move on to the next step. Pretty much, these are the pieces of wood we have remaining. These are going to be the support beams, I guess you can call them, and we'll get into that in a second. Here's my trusty handy power drill that I use for just about everything, and you just control the torque at the top, guys. Sometimes they tell you don't use a power drill on certain you know, assemblies, but the fact is, if you control your torque and you're just, you know, use a little bit of common sense, you're going to be okay. So here we are, right? We put the other layman, or the ground liner, underneath the sandbox, and that's pretty much where we are. All the sandbox, for all intents and purposes, is complete. And I would suggest that this stage is the stage that you would just take that ground liner and put it to the underneath it. You know, just unfold it from the center of the sandbox and kind of feather it out and lift up the sandbox as you go around it, and you know, line that ground line where you would like it. And I also would strongly suggest that you make certain that wherever you need the sandbox to be, wherever you want it to be permanently, this is the time you put it there. Because let me tell you, these sandboxes hold up to 1,000 pounds plus of sand. That's over a half ton of sand. And I'm going to be putting 1,000 pounds in myself today. Hopefully today, if the weather permits. It's kind of cloudy here in Florida. So hopefully, you know, weather allows us to, you know, be great. Now, as you can see here, I went ahead and started, and got a few of those support beams or support pieces of wood. And what you'll need to do is place it in the center at the different points. And the instruction will outline exactly where you'll need to put it. But you'll just make sure it's lined up, that is even, that is grounded, and where you're also going to put the bench or these the seating. The good thing about these sandboxes here is that they come with seating that, from what I understand, according to the manufacturer, an average adult would have no problem, you know, sitting on the edge of that sandbox as they monitor their child, if that's what they chose to do or how they chose to do it, as opposed to maybe having a chair just outside of it. But these sandboxes are pretty large. I'm sure you could do that. So here you go. See that? Just make sure. Try to do this. I'm doing this one-handed, guys, so, you know, don't judge me. But what I'll do is put that camera down and come back. Voila. So as you can see, I got the bottom there. Make sure everything's even, everything's flush, strong, and you just go ahead and drill it in. And let's get that drilled in. Zippity, zoopity, zoppity. And there you go. Done. everything's secure. And what that also does, as you put these different pieces of support wood strategically throughout the sandbox, it really strengthens the sandbox. And here I've applied all but one, and I'll show you how we get them on there. All but one of these benches, these seating boards that come with the sandbox. And as you can see, pre-drilled holes there. Take a looky. All right. And what you're going to need to do, and it's going to be really important, you're going to have to make absolute certain that you line this up perfectly. Because if you drill into this wood and it's not perfectly centered, you're going to splinter the wood. You're going to split the wood. You know, and at that point, for all intents and purposes, compromise the strength of the wood. All right, and you don't want to do that. So let's go ahead. Yeah, weather chat. So far, so good. Let's keep going. All right, so you just want to make sure you keep all that in mind as you assemble these seating boards on this on the sandbox, right? All right, so let's take a quick look at it. You see there, one screw already put in, and that's going to be one of your most important screws. In fact, it's going to be one of the two most important screws on applying this seat here, because if you don't put that in correct, then the lining is going to be off on the other end. And what you're going to make sure you do, like I said earlier, make certain that as you put these screws in, you put them in perfectly centered. Make sure you don't over torque them. Instructions say you don't flush. I just go a little bit counter flush. Just to make certain, you know, you don't want the screw coming up, you know, nag on someone. See, take a looky there. So that's perfectly centered. What I'll do is just go ahead and put that down there. And once you get that in, the cedar wood is soft enough where it'll just kind of lock into place. And then what you'll do is just go ahead and take her down. You know, go ahead and screw it down. And like I said, just make sure it's perfectly centered. Because let me tell you something, if it's not, it's going to turn a seamless, simple process into a problem, a real problem. Now, like I said earlier, the great news is if you get that first that first screw lined up perfectly, and you go ahead and set in that second one on the opposite end, it's going to lock in there perfectly. And all those other screws are just going to line up perfectly in the center of that wood, and you're not going to have any problems, none at all, making certain that you get the wood in there. I'm sorry, that you get the screws in there perfectly, but you might have to change your battery. But that's no problem. So set, so stem, right? So there we go. Got that battery changed. Let's go ahead and finish up the screw. Zippity do da. Yup, get her in there. There you go. Perfectly down that center. And one more. We'll go ahead and complete that. All right, cool. Now we'll go ahead and move on to the next step. Well, guys, the next thing I'll be doing is making certain we adhere this ground liner to the outside of the sandbox. And we'll be doing that pretty much as the next step prior to us getting the sand in there. This is a badge that comes with the sandbox from the manufacturer. And the name of the company is Creative Cedar Designs. So, you know, like I said, never really dealt with the company before, but it seems to be a pretty good company. According to the instructions, you're supposed to get this badge and affix it right about there on the sandbox. Not sure if I'll do that or not, but right now we'll just go ahead and move on to the next step before we worry too much about cosmetics. Yeah, so I went ahead and bought this heavy-duty stapler gun from homie, whatever the company's name is. But I got it off Amazon for like $7. Comes with all these different size staplers and things, and it's supposed to be heavy duty and made of, you know, steel and all of that. But for the most part, all of these things are made, seems to me, by one big company somewhere. I'll let you figure out where, and you stamp different names on them. So I just go for the least expensive thing, you know, when you're buying something like this that you're probably going to use once or twice, maybe 3 times ever. So, you know, we're not going to invest a whole lot of money into it, but we do want to make certain that we lock in, you know, this ground liner and fix it well to the outside of this sandbox, because we don't want it shifting around. There's been some complaint, from what I understand, of over time, kind of shifting and sand leaking from underneath. So we really don't want that to happen. So we're just going to go around here and snap it in. And the good thing about this is I don't have to be too pretty, right? I'm going to put about 2 or 3, every, I don't know, 12 inches or so. And we're just going to go ahead and do that all the way around the sandbox. Like I said, just to kind of lock it in place and make certain there's no shifting once we put all the sand in there. Like I said, it's pretty sturdy so far from all the support beams and the seating, all that kind of adds to the stability and the overall integrity of the structure. And so I suspect once we get that sand in there, it should just add to the strength of the structure even more, being that everything's set out well. So speaking of sand, here we are. Like I said, I got 20 bags of 50-pound sand, and I got this stuff here that's made, for sand boxes. So I think that's pretty important. You're gonna put your kid or anyone's kid in a sandbox. I would hope that you would make sure the sand is made for that use. And reason being, to be quite frank, to make sure there's no bugs or parasites or any kind of crap in your sand. So we go ahead and got started here, as you can see. So everything's kind of moving along here. Look at there, look at there. Bam, another one, another one. These things are heavy. Good thing I'm big and strong. All right, so we're going to just go ahead and get this sand in here, get everything spread out. One thing I would strongly suggest as well, as you're adding, this sand, these sandboxes, I would strongly suggest that you make certain that you spread it out evenly as you go along. And trying to move along or move around, 2 and 3 and 4 bags of sand that's in the center of the sandbox. It's going to be really taxing. And I really wouldn't suggest using a rake or anything like that with such a small amount of sand in the sandbox at this stage. I think you really would run the risk of, ripping that ground liner, and you really don't want to do that, because the whole point of that ground liner is to, make certain that, some sort of weed barrier. Speaking of barriers, as you can see here, I add cinnamon. Yes, cinnamon. Good old cinnamon to the sand. From what I understand, it's an old DG folktale, and I think it's backed by scientific fact. But the fact is, it's known that cinnamon is also a natural repellent of insects and bugs and things of that nature. And it smells pretty dang good too, I'll tell you. So what I do is just take a little 4, 5, 6 ounce container of cinnamon and just spread it throughout the sand in the sandbox as I add the sand. So just go ahead and get that done and walk away. Just call me Cinnamon Foot. Yes, Cinnamon Foot. All right, so here we have it. That's where we are. We have a half-ton, 1,000 pounds, 20, 50-pound bags of sand in the sandbox. We've raked it out, got it kind of leveled out, and that's what it looks like. And I can tell you, it looks pretty good. I'm gonna tell you, it looks really, really good. I'm really happy with the purchase. I think my son's gonna love it, and I'm excited to see him have a good time in it. So yeah, so far so good with it, and hopefully it holds up. Let me just give you a quick shot of it with just a few of his toys in it. So it's looking good. All right, guys, so real quick, the dimensions on the sandbox are 84 inches by 78 inches by 9 inches high. It's made by Creative Cedar Designs, as I mentioned earlier, and I can tell you it looks pretty doggone good. Easy to put together, pretty straightforward, and I suspect the only concern you would really have is making certain that you don't receive any damaged product. Once you get it in good shape, I don't think you're gonna have much of a problem with it after that. Here's the top to the cover to the sandbox. Pretty snug, holds on pretty good. I suspect if you get a heavy rain, it probably would come off, so you might want to clamp that down. I'll probably put a tarp over all of this in the event of any bad weather. Well, thank you so much for watching. That does it for today's episode. Guys, please take a few moments and subscribe. And remember, information without utilization is useless. Thank you so much. Let's get it.